Welcome to your weekly staff meeting, hosted by me, Katie Prangy, founder of Katie Prangy Training and Development, your on-demand, relevant training source for staffers who work for an elected official. Let's learn something. Hey everybody, Katie Prangy here with Katie Prangy Training and Development for this week's staff meeting. So this week we are talking about ways to make your boss sound more authentic. There is just something about some elected officials, some politicians, that when they deliver content in certain ways, it just doesn't sound authentic. Frankly, it sounds like the stereotypical politician standing on the podium talking about things they don't know, they don't understand, and they're just delivering content. Well, we don't want that to be your boss. We want your boss to sound authentic. And there are 5 ways that you, as a staffer, can coach them to get there. The number one reason why an elected official doesn't sound authentic is because they are reading the content rather than delivering it from their heart and from their mind. Why does this matter? Well, you've heard people read to you things that are technical, that are complicated, that are boring, and it always sounds like a monotone recitation of whatever it is that they want you to know. So, for example, I'm going to read to you part of the column that is part of today's training. And it's going to feel a whole lot different than it does when I just sit here and talk to you as a fellow staffer. Here it is. Our bosses are extremely passionate about the topics they know and their work as an elected official, but sometimes they don't sound authentic. Frankly, they sound like stereotypical politicians. Why? If your boss doesn't sound authentic, it's probably because he or she is reading. That's right. If your boss doesn't sound right, it's because he is reading your talking points, reading your bill, your brief, or reading your notes. We need to coach your boss to stop reading. And I need to stop reading right now too. So, like you saw there, it's really a very different cadence and tenor when someone is reading content to you rather than just speaking to you directly. The words they use, the way that it flows is very different when it's being read versus when it's just spoken. And part of that is because when you're just speaking to someone, when you're just having a discussion, a conversation, sharing information, if you're not reading it, you have to understand it, and you have to be able to put it into you have to understand it, and you have to be able to put it into context so that you can explain it to that person and seek understanding rather than just delivering written content verbally. Very big difference. The number one thing that you can do to coach your boss to sound more authentic is to work with him or her to take their own notes and write their own talking points. So go ahead, write the talking points, but then sit down with your boss with a legal pad in front of her and walk through what in your talking points and have her jot down the notes and the ideas that she takes away from what you've talked about to deliver the content herself. Through this discussion, maybe discuss some of the things that came to your mind as you were putting the talking points together. Illustrate it, talk about examples, tell stories, all the things that will be in her background as she delivers the things that she is now writing out in her talking points. There is something kinetic about writing down ideas that make it far more easier to then share the ideas verbally in a way that an audience can understand. And it is always important for someone who is speaking to an audience to be able to seek understanding, especially when you're in person. And that's kind of one of the biggest challenges with doing these videos is I can't see you. So I'm hoping that you understand what I'm saying. But when your boss is one-on-one or in a press conference or in a committee providing testimony or giving a speech, whatever it is, your boss should be able to deliver content, but also read the room to understand whether or not that content is landing. And if it's not, then he or she may need to change the approach or paraphrase or, say it differently in some way to get that understanding. But the number one way that that can happen is if your boss takes the notes himself, jots down the ideas that he wants to deliver, and has a discussion with you as the staffer before delivering the content. It's going to be so much different than when you hand your boss your handwritten talking points or your written talking points as he or she steps to the podium. If that's what you're doing, they are reading, and they definitely are not sounding as authentic as they should be. So the second suggestion, if you are recording content with your boss, if you're recording a radio clip, a video, if you're trying to record something that's going to be part of a presentation, sit across the table from your boss and have your boss talk to you rather than talking to the microphone. I just had to look at it, the microphone. The delivery is going to be so much different. If they are making eye contact with you, even if they're referring to notes and then returning to eye contact, that is going to be a much more authentic delivery than if they're sitting there reading the notes and then they start to shout into the microphone, because that is how people talk to microphones. I don't know why, but create that one-on-one conversational situation for your boss, and it is going to sound far, far more authentic. The third recommendation that you should coach your boss to sound more authentic is to practice. It's to use windshield time. Most of our bosses spend a lot of time in the car. I know it's, driving from one place to another, going from the district to the capital, wherever they may be, they are going to spend a lot of time in the car. If you see me driving around and I'm talking, I'm probably practicing one of these videos or a training or a conversation I'm going to be having or an interview or something like that, because I know the value in trying to work things out verbally and saying something more than once, because that's going to make me sound more authentic. It's also going to give me a chance to work out some of the kinks and the context and decide how I want to say something to make it sound the way that I want you to hear it. Have your boss practice. Now, I know a lot of bosses like to spend a lot of time on the phone in the car, makes the time pass a lot faster. Maybe have your boss call you and work through things, right? Have your boss call you and deliver the speech. I would much rather have my boss work through a speech even without notes and just say things once or twice to get it to sound authentic. If the majority of what he or she is saying is practiced like that, it will sound better than if they are getting up to a podium and just reading your speech that you wrote, or if they're not practicing at all. If they practice with you over the phone too, you can write down what they're saying. And guess what? You've just now had help in writing the talking points. So, just another idea there. The fourth idea that I want you to try is to encourage your boss to paraphrase testimony, notes, and other written content. So, how does that work? To paraphrase something is to put it in words that are more clear, that help to explain something, like I just did there. So when your boss takes testimony, for example, say he or she needs to testify on one of your bills before a committee, and they read the testimony and they literally sit down with you and just paraphrase what they read in that testimony. That paraphrased content is what they should then say, right? Rather than sitting down and reading testimony, which is so boring and hard to listen to, they should just paraphrase what the testimony says. And if they really need to say it, they can say, I've submitted my written testimony for all of you to review. Does anyone have any questions? The committee is going to love that, right? They would much rather have your boss just paraphrase what the testimony is and then answer questions rather than sitting down and reading something that is in writing in front of them. Not only does it make that interaction more comfortable, it also illustrates and demonstrates your boss's understanding of the content. When someone reads something, they may or may not understand the content. They may or may not actually know what it is that they are reading. So then when it comes to Q&A time, they don't sound real credible. because they've now just read the testimony. Do they actually understand it? In order for your boss to paraphrase something, they need to understand the content. And that is half the battle to sounding authentic. Finally, the last tip is that your boss will sound more authentic and be better if he or she is operating in their wheelhouse. Now, what is a wheelhouse? In baseball, the wheelhouse is that spot in a batter's swing where they are most likely to hit a home run. And we all want to hit a home run, right? So when you operate in your boss's wheelhouse, if you are operating from that place where your boss is the most knowledgeable, where they have the most expertise, where they care about the issue that you're working on, they are going to be operating in their wheelhouse, and they are going to always sound more authentic when they are there rather than when they are trying to explain something or talk about something that they're just not as familiar with. So the idea there is to operate in your boss's wheelhouse most of the time. Do you know what that is? If you don't, I highly recommend that you check out my How to Brand Your Boss DIY workshop. This workshop it's a guided workshop that will help you and your team work through what is your boss's brand. And your boss's brand is going to be based on the things that are in his or her wheelhouse. It is going to make you operate from the place where your boss is the best, where your team can operate the best, where you are going to get the best results. Because when you're working in that spot, you are going to sound authentic. And that is what you want in order for voters and constituents and stakeholders and other people around you to want to work with you, because they want someone who cares about their issues. And when you're in that spot, you definitely sound like you do and probably actually do. So check that out. It's a great course. It takes about 2 hours to go from beginning to end. I highly recommend that you do it with your whole team, including your boss. Your boss has to buy in to their brand, and working through that workshop together will help you find that sweet spot in order to work from that wheelhouse. So I hope that served you. I hope you can take at least one of the 5 tips to work with your boss to sound more authentic. Now, I'm not saying that we're trying to fake it here. We're just trying to make sure that your boss is coming across in the absolute best way possible, the most authentic way, because that is what people want to see and hear from their elected officials. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to see you next week in the staff meeting. See you soon. Hey, have you downloaded your free 6 Strategies to Become an Indispensable Staffer guide yet? If not, what are you doing? Get over to katieprangey.com and download your free guide right away. We'll also invite you to a totally free 6-module video training on the same topic. Take a look. See you soon.